Hey, it's kind of funny, you can't see it. All the leather work, there's all these leather scribbles all over the floor. I haven't got around to picking them up yet. Got to shop back over here for that. Amazing what it takes to make a simple wallet. Having skills is important. Nobody has it anymore. I think everybody thinks that they're all going to work remotely from home in their underwear and, just hit the keyboard. That's going to get stuff done. Oh, by the way, I was talking to my friend, and he has a warehouse, and he actually had a person that was interested in employment as a forklift driver. He said, which is okay, but he wanted to know if he could do it remotely. Imagine that, a guy that wants a job that wants to work remotely as a forklift driver. Yeah, maybe sometime in the distant future they'll be able to have like remote control forklift driving. That's a little bit out there. Before actually getting into this video, I'd kind of like to be a laid-back video of some advice. And I don't know if you know this or not. There's a new California rule that would ban the sale of diesel trucks by the year 2036 and quickly phase them out. I don't know if you know it or not, but most things are delivered by diesel truck. Yeah, and to actually move that kind of heavy weight via an electric truck is not really feasible. Not only will the grid not support it, there's not enough little young human beings, I'm going to use those words, to mine the cobalt in various, destitute places of the, it's just really quite horrible. And on top of that, of course, California, Nevada, and Arizona, they're going to be paying out $521 per acre foot to not use the water. Why that's important for California especially, but also too for Arizona, is that a significant portion of the United States food comes from there. So farmers are being paid more money to not make food, and I don't know if you can consider that a ticking disaster or not, but it probably is. I wanted to make a video kind of laid back to a certain extent. Not really, but the important stuff. The stuff that they never talked about in high school or college, about what people want in life and want from others. Of course, everybody has their own silly little desires and wants. Many of them are erratic and not rational. I'm not interested in discussing those because we can't eliminate out that. We shouldn't want to have power or influence over other people, except for, like, if it's your business and you want to keep people in line so your business is successful, or to keep your kids in line until they're old enough to know how to conduct their own lives. And of course, everybody that wants power over other people never has any power over their own, and they're always reaching out into different levels they shouldn't be reaching. But most people have no clue what natural order is, nor are they interested in following it, and that's a serious issue. But I can see the greater picture, and I know everything does run in cycles, and everything is running in cycles, and right now we're kind of the brakes are off the bus, and the bus is about to go right over the cliff. And there's an entity I keep calling Hydra that wants totalitarian hegemonic control over everybody. But they have a certain magic, and this is what Hollywood is based on. How's that song go from the Red Hot Chili Peppers? Space something something, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. And all the fantastical stuff that we see that's made by Industrial Light and Magic and green screens, and everybody loves to go see a good movie. I am actually heartened by the fact of the recent strikes that are going on. It's fascinating. It's been going on for a few months now. My life hasn't changed a single bit by all these overpaid, and that's what an actor is, by the way, a professional liar, all these actors that are on strike. I'm sorry I can't feel too much sympathy for somebody that, has a pool in their backyard that's probably 5 times bigger than my house. Just don't have a whole lot of sympathy for that and their great plight, as it were. I don't know if you noticed it or not, I'm sure you have, that right now it actually takes an act of God to get anything done. I've done this a few times in life. Not that I have any money, but where you could actually wave some extra money, and man, people would, I mean, just it get right to it. You can't do that anymore. People are telling me, well, that's the reason that fiat currency doesn't do anything anymore. You know, that people are not motivated. But I mean, it literally has got to the point where you cannot rely on anybody to do anything anymore. It never has been a greater time where self-reliance has actually been more important. There's actually going to be a growing chasm of intellectual caste. I said intellectual caste systems. By the way, the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas, that was actually a metaphysical or spiritual caste system in India, not the type that you're thinking of. But there's going to be a growing divide where, and everybody knows, and it's been said for years now, that America is becoming more and more and more polarized. When someone actually has wisdom, there is actual spiritual polarization. This is the reason why people that are quite enlightened are quite, you know, they really undergo a great deal of, shall we say, spiritual or metaphysical stress because they are at odds with their existential self. You know, the average everyday goofball has no internal struggle. There is a complete mix there. Kind of like oil and water will separate, and you'll actually have polarization between that which is desired and that which is undesired. You know, like the my Greek salad dressing in there, you know, will actually separate, and you know, analogous to the fool, you know, you shake the salad dressing up, and everything is a homogeneous mixture. This is the case of the fool, but there is going to be a growing intellectual polarization as America divides even further, and also too, I hear this is happening in Canada. I know it's actually happening in Canada firsthand from the Canadians. The western provinces, which are very, very much like the south of the United States and the western states of the United States, such as Montana and Idaho, these western provinces of Canada are, you know, very much disidentifying with the Canadians of the East. So there is this intellectual and philosophical caste system that's actually growing, and I know for the United States for certain, and the Canadians, I'm 100% certain that that's happening. Australia seems to be a huge gray area. From all the Australians that I talk to, that like 95% of everybody is just like asleep. I don't know if it's actually 95%, but apparently Australia and New Zealand are incredibly asleep. But I mean, these are crown countries, and you know what they do is none of my business, but I like to have my head on a swivel and know what's going on in the world to see, take the temperature of what's going on. So these are the things that, you know, I need to focus on losing weight. You know, there's several things I need to focus on. When I give advice, I am way more than intelligent and wise enough to know the areas in which I fail, because every time I make these recommended life advice tips, someone will say, well, I'm going to take advice from you, you're fat and out of shape, and you're covered in tattoos. Well, don't let the tattoos confuse your girlfriend. Tattooed monkey is really smart. You're fat, bald, and tattooed, but dumb is not one of the attributes that I have. Self-reliance. On a scale of 1 to 10, I can actually say, compared to 100% of the rest of Americans, I really am right at the level of 10 on self-reliance. Having a sharp mind, I'm not going to give that number, but I know where I am on that. I spent much of my life debating various topics that I'm an expert on. And of course, in formal debate, there's no such thing as an authority. There's only novices and experts. There's no such thing in a formal debate as authorities. I really, really do have a sharp mind on fallacies and debate, and I will never let myself be held intellectually captive, you know, to the logomachy, which is a fancy word for lip flapping, of your average day human being. And nothing, by the way, will help you more, and or your little ones, your rugrats, than learning about fallacies. They only need to learn about the top 100 fallacies. Once they know about them and they can identify them, they're even better than having a sharp mind. Literally, knowing fallacies is the most important thing. Trust me on that one. This is a magic that most people don't have, and I'm not talking about like Harry Potter magic. I hated those movies, by the way. I couldn't stand them. I watched them when I was really, really sick once in Florida. And man, it's like, I know these are just horrible. They're not even entertaining at all. The magic of learning to say no. It seems that most people, Canadians are just too nice. I'm not picking on Canadians, but a lot of Americans have this issue. They will let a magic be held over them such that when asked to do something or to comply, they have an inability to say no. A lot of the things that are demanded and asked of them are not law. Some things that actually are law are absolutely unrighteous, immoral, but I'm not going to get into that topic. But people don't have that magic within them, and they really do. And it's actually one of the fundamental defects of human genetics is that we were learned to work together in dire situations, so that the group and the people would have a better chance for survival. I do get that. But especially, I hate to say this, but trust nobody. It's gotten really worse. People have really gotten, and I asked this in a video like a week or so ago about people getting really flaky. An enormous amount of you respond is like, yeah, I noticed people I could usually rely on have gotten really flaky. What they are is they're in cognitive dissonance, and they're in a fear mode. People are a lot more angered about basically everything. That's because they can actually subliminally at least see what's going on. And they're in fear, and when they're in fear, then they get angry. There's many reasons for this because of what's going on in the world. This is something that I've scored, I can easily say I score a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10, is make like a squirrel or a chipmunk and start, hoarding your hazelnuts and your walnuts, squirreling away, non-perishable, and preparing yourself for contingencies. I'm just going to call it contingencies. You know exactly what I'm referring to, but contingencies. So these are the 5 primary things. Self-reliance, I got a 10 out of 10 on that one. A sharp mind, I'll let you figure that one out. And I asked myself this, I know I need to lose weight. I know I need to do a lot of different things. I failed on that. I failed on, because I can't do everything, but sometimes it feels like, I have to, because I do. I have nobody else to rely on to help me with anything, to find a companion in life, somebody to get along with, and we mutually care about each other. So I've completely failed on that front as well. I know that. So on that scale, I've gone a 0 out of 10. But I do have skills. I can make things and fix things and do things, and I know how to build things, and I know how to garden, and I know how to hatch out eggs. Man, I've done a lot of egg hatching out. And I know a lot of things about farming and, survival. People think you need to be in perfect shape with no skin on your bones and all muscle, which is really bad in our cold situation to do the hard work, and that's just not true. But learn to say no. I think I've scored really good on that. But this is the short list that I have, and I grade myself on this, and I'm self-critical in trying to improve things in my life. Important thing that, and I see less of it now, but I see more of it at the top, and you know exactly what the top means, is that people have a desire for power and control over others. I call this entity Hydra. It's a multi-headed entity. But I see people on the base level of humanity that are not control freaks over others. So that's lessened. So it's lessened in the mid and the lower sections of the economic scale of humanity by and large on this earth. But right at the top where Hydra is concerned, it's completely gone off the Richter scale. So I'd rather see more control freaks out in the regular world amongst middle and low class people than I would to see these near all-powerful Hydra entities. But they actually have a magic over a significant portion of humanity, and I don't just mean the United States, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, Europe. Always identify these other people for wanting power as fundamentally and inherently, of course, evil. You make your own decisions. I don't ever tell anybody what to do. That's your own life choice. But I avoid them. I ignore them. And if I have to, I castigate them. There's a great word nobody uses anymore, castigate. Natural order, of course, necessitates that you, me, us cleave to in this life, because we came in this world with nothing, we're going to leave with nothing. That we cleave in this life to the divine and that which is most self-similar to natural order, and it makes life happier. You know, walking around with this heavy armor of a belief system. And I'm not saying people shouldn't have belief. They should believe in their love for their loved ones and their family. Not those beliefs, but in these generic beliefs, people are just weighted down like a giant lead anchor around our neck in crazy belief systems that we cleave to things that are not in line with natural order. And it just makes life so much easier. It doesn't mean go with the flow, because as I've said, turds and trash go with the flow. When you cleave to the divine, you are, as the ancient Pali term goes, udam soto, which means an upstreamer. It means you're heading against the flow when you cleave towards the divine. A lot of people think, well, I just gotta follow natural order, man, bro. Whatever gonna be is what it is. That's a hippie beatnik sort of mentality, and that's no different than saying going with the flow. Once again, turds and trash go with the flow. So a lot of people are confused about that and following natural order. It is not a stamp or an advocation for the hippie slash beatnik go with the flow, man. There's two different flow. There's the flow as against the flow, and there's the flow with the flow, and I'm certainly not for going with the flow. Identify evil people and their evil ideas. I think a lot of people actually have a difficulty with this. There's almost nobody on this earth that doesn't have some sort of agenda. Not only is now everybody incredibly flaky, but people have a serious agenda. It's not always hidden, but you need to be able to see through people. I'm really very, very good at that. I can read people not only like a book, but I can see through them. I can read them like a book, and I can see through people. It does not take me long to figure people out. Identify the magic that these people have, and it is a type of magic that they hold, and telling you that they're better than you, and that you need to obey them and follow their silly rules. I am the furthest thing from an anarchist, absolutely, no way, shape, or form. But you have to identify this magic that these people want. Well, this person's evil. They have nefarious ideas. They have no control or self-control over themselves. The desire that they want for me to do or follow whatever it is that they want me to do, and all that's coming up soon, but it's always been out there. It's a type of magic that they have over unsharp minds, shall we say. And that magic they love to exercise and control. It actually gives them power. And by doing so, capitulating to them, there's a great word, you're actually giving power to that which is an evil fire that's not just the fire in your fireplace, but will, set you and your world, shall we say, ablaze. And by giving it power, you really are feeding a disaster. And people need to be able to identify that. And a lot of people just don't have sharp minds to do that anymore. It didn't used to be this bad, and now it is really bad. You should see me in public. You should see how easily I am to jump on and let it rip and say, no, I will not. Furthermore, you're evil, yada, yada, yada. People would be shocked by me in public. They really would be. In a good way, Here's something that's really important, and I upset some people last time I mentioned this, but it's absolutely true. This entity, Hydra, which has many different heads to it, they want you to rent and not to own. They want all the fools chirping about property. That property taxes. You don't really own it, you pay property taxes. It's just completely ridiculous. Once again, that's like saying, why should I wipe my bum after I drop a deuce? It's just going to get dirty tomorrow. Well, I'm sorry, but renting is slavery. These people that are chirping about property taxes, I hate to say it, and there's so many people that say that, it is extremely foolish, and you are feeding into the government's idea of being a renter, which is no renter is Latin for slave, not literally, but so this bondage, as I call it, is three-pronged. There's actually more than one. Ignorance, of course, is primary. Credit cards, ignorance above all of them. Credit cards, renting, and not being prepared. Also, too, not, and this is something I failed at much of my life. It's like you get a few extra bucks, which was very rare for me. You like, there's something that you really wanted, whatever that gadget was, and you bought it. And these are not assets, they're liabilities. The difference between, I've seen, and I know, personally I know some of these people that are millionaires. They're not that sharp. Some of them are absolutely not that sharp, but they know the difference between an asset and a liability. The one thing that I wished I would have been taught at an early age, not that I'm holding up a buck, is that when someone gets a buck, however many bucks it is, whatever money, euro, instead of thinking about what you're going to spend it on to give you like 10 minutes of happiness, is consider that a person. It's like, how am I going to put it to work for me? Okay, now I got 100 bucks, 10,000 bucks, whatever it is. Instead of thinking about spending it, oh, I'm going to buy a new car, great. Think about how you can make that to work for you. Generate, for example, passive income. I'm going to be buying an Amish prefab cabin and putting it up on my farm in a very, very idyllic spot. I'm going to turn that into passive income. So I have geared my mind into that mindset of that now. I mean, I'm still broke as heck. Okay, but I have been making right choices for years. But much of my life, I have failed at that. I mean, I will admit that on a scale of 1 to 10, I mean, I wasn't down there like some people, like, they get a buck immediately, they know what they're going to blow it on. So I was never down to 0 or 1 or 2 or 3, but I was, you know, somewhere around a 4 or a 5, and it's just not good. Every child, I mean, I don't have children, but if I had them, I would be teaching them this. Every child, every person in college, they need to get out of this this bondage mindset of renting and credit cards and ignorance, which is the biggest form of bondage you could have your entire life, and think it's not about what's saving your bucks. Like, oh, you save your money. Well, it's just like it's junk sitting there, and due to inflation, it's losing money every second. But putting it somewhere that can actually work for you. And man, that is a mistake I failed at, but you know, I've corrected that over the past many years, to whatever extent that is. Be diversified in the tools of commerce and understand what the tools of the government are. We talk about gold, silver, and platinum, of course, but there's another form of currency that's metal, and that metal is heavy stuff. They make fishing sinkers out of it. Yeah, that stuff is lead. Money is meant to speak, but currency isn't just fiat currency or gold, silver, platinum. It's also, too, the hammer. History has shown us all throughout history that the ultimate currency is a piece of steel with a certain edge on it. In later years, it became lead, and then there's a different type of subset of metals. So we actually have the currency of commerce, gold, silver, platinum. Then we have the currency of governments and force, which is uranium, plutonium, and lead, uranium, plutonium. The bank has paper money for the civilized people. The government has metal money for commerce, gold, silver, platinum. Like the guard at the bank. The guard has his own money he keeps on his hip, you know, for the uncivilized. Like you go, you bebop into the bank, you do your money in and out with the bank, and you're a civilized person. The bank is only superficially civilized. Because banks don't lend money, they lend debt. But the guard there, in case you're uncivilized, he has a different form of currency. Think about this. His currency is on his hip, and it's of a specific type of heavy metal. See, there's the currency of civilized human beings, and there's the currency of force. And that is its own type of money. And this has been true all throughout history. Cavemen, it was a stone. Native Americans, it was sharpened flint on the end of a stick. And then it became steel. And then it became lead. And then evil government entities thought, you know, there's a better metal than even lead. Uranium! Fissionable! It's not funny, actually. Insert image of gigantic mushroom cloud. Yeah. I mean, I say that humorously, but it's 100% the truth and undeniable. I believe in being diversified in every possible way. All gold, silver, and platinum commerce is backed by and is protected by... Fort Knox is not too far down the road towards Louisville. I don't know if you know what's around Fort Knox, but it's the world's largest contingency of the most advanced tanks that you could ever imagine. You should see these things in action. Everybody's got an idea of a tank in their head. This is next generation tank. Man, these suckers, they're really quite fascinating what they could do. Really, really fascinating. By the way, those tanks actually emit a different type of uranium. It's called DU, depleted uranium. Just think about that for a second. Fort Knox is surrounded by the world's largest collection of these metal boxes on treads that use a different type of metal. You see, you got the one metal that everybody wants, gold! And it's protected by a different type of metal, depleted uranium. This is what everybody talks about, the gold and the silver and the platinum. But the way that the governments protect it is with a different type of metal. Don't you find that fascinating? Why doesn't anybody talk about that fact? So stability. It's about having stability. No one's going to get out of this life alive. But everything is about maximum allowable stability. And I've thought in those terms much of my life, mostly about metaphysics and philosophy and the secrets of the universe, but I consider this stuff divinely important. And so should you. Anyway, if you ever want to contact me, my information is in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Lux Veritas.